Hello, nice to be here with you. I'm Jōshin. Technically, most of you know me. So I'm a longtime resident at Maple. I've been with them since the beginning, on and off, and spent some time out in the world and then came back. And the last couple of years or so, I've been teaching at Maple's sister location called Oak. We like tree names around here. And I've been teaching there for a couple of years now, which is in the Bay Area in California. I don't know if you have a sense of this or not, but the Bay Area in California is kind of the center of what I would call world religion right now. I don't know if you know that. If you go throughout history, a lot of the time throughout history, there is a place where people are innovating in terms of religions, in terms of the views that people take on and live their lives according to. I would say that the place where that's happening right now is the Bay Area in California, the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a place where we're, you could say, constructing views, or as I tend to think about it, the place where views, ideas, stories are competing over us. And the place where, all of the different ways of seeing things come into big ring and duke it out, and whichever one wins is the one that the world buys into. So it's been very interesting being a teacher in that area, in that part of the world, because I have found that when I'm out there, and especially when I'm giving a talk like this in public with an audience, usually around there it's people video conference in. I'm not in a physical room with physical people, but I can look at a screen and I can see pictures of people, and the pictures can move and react to what I say. And people out there put forth the view that this is the same thing, or almost as good as being in a room together. Actually, one of the views that has been taking off lately, yes, when I'm giving a talk out there, there's often a sense people are really hungry for my views. People really want to know what I believe in and what I think I should live my life according to, and what they should live their life according to. And they want to know what my view is. And especially, people are most interested in what idea about how to live I have come up with most recently. That's the thing that people sort of want to know about. You go out there and you give a talk, or even you're at a party and you meet someone and you talk to them, soon enough the topic is going to come up, what have you been thinking about lately? I really want to know what you've been thinking about lately. What has emanated from your head in the last short amount of time? What formula have you come up with for how to live your life lately? How do you see things lately? And for a long time, I was actually really excited about this. I'm still kind of excited about this. I actually enjoy this a little bit in a weird way. But for a long time, I was really excited about it. And I was excited about it because there was a sense every time I sat down in a room with people in that part of the world of just their presence, just the fact that they are there and they are listening to me is actually making my views sharper and my thinking crisper. Just the act of people in that part of the world listening in the way that they do, wanting the things that they want, and expecting the things that they expect, actually makes my thoughts crisper, sharper, clearer, and I really enjoy that, really enjoyed that, and still to some extent, in a way, kind of enjoy that, although the experience has come to be filled with a lot more fear and distrust as well of thinking. It is interesting because now I've been out there for a while in this role, teacher role, person who sits at the front of the room and gives a talk, and in a way I've kind of gotten used to it. And now I get to have the opposite experience. I get to realize that soon enough I'm going to be sitting in this room with you, people who, in my head anyway, in my way of seeing things, are not that interested in what I've been thinking about lately. People who want me to say something real, want me to say something that will actually help someone. And in the same way that out there, at first it was kind of daunting and terrifying, and then it was exciting. Oh boy, these people are going to sharpen my thoughts. Now I come here and it's like, these people really expect me to say something. So I've actually come to the point of being quite excited and also a little fearful about this. So why do I bring all that up? Why do I mention all that? Just because the way that I thought I would start, that I would come in tonight, is just by talking about how we kind of create each other. It's been my experience that in the relationships that I've been in and the various circumstances I've been in, it's like there's kind of an expectation we have about who people are and what they'll do and how they should act that in a way creates the people who then do that. Does that make sense? Kind of? A little bit? So, just one example of this. I've spent the last 2 months training at Maple out here in Vermont, up in Lowell. And for the last 2 months, I've really been emphasizing my own, what would you call it? Purification, growth, messiness, disaster. I don't know what you would call that. I've been really working on myself and taking advantage of not having to hold the teacher role, which for most of the visit I haven't been holding. I haven't been in charge of teaching people, holding the wisdom function or anything like that. So I've been able to just throw myself into the training, and I've been taking advantage of that by, becoming quite a bit of a mess. Going into my own mess and cleaning up, You sort of open up your heart and you look inside and there are all these horrifying things that you've been repressing. You take them out, and you look at them, you maybe share them with the community, process them, and then work through them. So I've been doing that a lot, which means that most of the time I've looked like a mess, to some extent or another. Just looked very messy. And to the point where people have actually been surprised. Multiple people at Maple, and the time I was there, have expressed astonishment that I would be a teacher. How could you be a teacher? I can't understand. You're such a mess. They didn't literally say that, but they kind of, that's the implication. Like, how are you a teacher in this organization? This is really weird. And I really kind of took that on and just became a mess. It became habitually and ongoingly a mess. And then something interesting happened, actually just before I gave this talk, which is that I had a video call with Oak, the place where I usually teach. And in that video call, I'm looking at my students, and they're looking back at me, and just that is enough for me to unconsciously, without planning on it, without trying to, just suddenly start acting like the teacher at Oak. You know, they're looking at me, they expect me to be the teacher at Oak, and so I respond by being the teacher at Oak. And I say these brilliant things that I couldn't have come up with, that are appropriate to the moment. I don't know if they're really, I felt like they were brilliant. Maybe they disagreed, they thought, what's this guy on about? But I liked it. I felt really good about that call. And I just remembered, oh yeah, that's right. That can happen. I'm also that. I also am that person. I'll give another example. So I went to church a little while ago in the Bay Area with a good friend of mine, and we did an exercise together. The exercise was actually really fascinating. I've, since being friends with this person in the Bay Area, have become gradually more and more impressed and captivated by or in love with evangelical Christianity. I've been really impressed. I don't know if she has a really good church or if they're all like that. I don't know, but it's been great. And so we did this listening exercise at her church, where everyone paired off. Everyone, went into pairs with each other, and we got to spend a few minutes. It was, flipped both ways. We got to spend a few minutes being listened to, and then a few minutes where the person's job was to pretend to listen to us while doing something else. And this was fascinating to me, because I don't know if you've ever been in this kind of situation, like you're talking to someone and you're falling over the words and you don't know what to say and nothing really makes sense or lines up. Maybe you've been in that situation once or twice in your life. I've been in that situation a lot, and I usually feel like it's because of me. I'm failing to communicate in this situation because I'm, bad or something. But like when the person was really listening to me, and when I was listening to the person, it was the same both ways. It was like our truest, realest, most beautiful core was just being drawn out. Like we would just start talking and naturally find ourselves expressing and hearing too. I was impacted by hearing this person's life story in a way that was really beautiful, really lovely, really connected. And in the second part of the exercise, the person is still supposed to look at me. They're making eye contact, but their job is to not listen to me. And it's every time I try to start, it's like, I don't know if I don't really want to say anything right now. It's so weird. It was like that the whole time through. And so, just the act of listening, the way that you are with someone in connection, just listening to them, just receiving what they have to say, actually, to a large extent, creates what they have to say. And sort of, we feel like it's my job whoever is up here, it's their job to come in here and give a good talk. But actually, it's been my experience that when I'm giving a talk, it's actually you all who are giving the talk. I'm kind of with you and you're drawing me out. And in the same way, when I'm listening, when I'm with someone else, teacher or friend or anyone, it's sort of like through being in connection with them and staying in contact, I'm kind of creating that relationship. This is very interesting, because it suggests that the way that we see things, the way that we expect people are, the way that we believe something's going to happen, actually to a large extent participates in creating that. The person we expect to hear creates the person who we hear. In a way that it isn't like 100%, you know. Like you can try dropping that story intentionally. If you have an idea about what's going to happen, you can try letting go of that. But the person, at least in my experience, can kind of still have their own version of that story. And so it's like you forget who they are, but then they remind you, you know, they say, no, I'm this person who you think I am. And then you say, oh yeah, you're that person who I think I am. And you almost don't notice that happened. But with time, with practice, with concentration, and especially with time apart, time not directly interacting with each other's stories, we can actually come to the point when our stories about who each other are, and even about who we are, fall apart. The stories actually stop, and we notice that there were stories. We may have not noticed that there were stories, but the stories stop, and then we realize, oh, there were stories. They may then, of course, come back, but having experienced that, if we experience that, then we find ourselves in an interesting position. As we find that you can actually just tell any story you want. You don't have to tell any specific story. You know, it's kind of like this room. We can think of this room as having been built already. It's complete, it's finished, it's here, it's solid, it's stable. But someone built this room. And whoever it was that built this room could have made any number of choices about how they built this room. You can imagine, they could have put the pillar in a slightly different place, they could have put in an arch instead of the pillars, they could have maybe put the pillars somewhere else, they could have not had pillars, they could have used different materials, they could have painted it a different color, on and on and on. In the same way, you can notice that the way that you see things, the way that you are asking reality to be and expecting reality to be, the other people you interact with, and also to a large extent the rest of the world, the non-human part of the world, once you start to see that that is a choice that you are making and can make in different ways, the question arises, is there a right way to see things? Is there a right story to tell? Is there a better or worse story to tell? How would you know? Because even what we measure success by is still based on that story. You know? Does that make sense? So you have a certain story, you have a certain way of representing reality. You say things are this way. Based on that idea, that story, you have an ought. You have a this, therefore this is what should happen. This is what we should do. This is what we should try to make happen. This is what we should go towards. So, for example, well, if you have the story that what is that there's just this material world made of atoms and molecules, and in it there are humans, and the humans have feelings, and the only important thing in the world is that the humans have the best feelings, then the way that you measure the success of whatever you do is how many feelings, like what are the feelings that the humans have? Are humans having good feelings or not? Are humans feeling pleasant feelings or not? And if you try to shift that is, then from the perspective of the old is and the old ought, you're kind of losing out. So, but then if you take a different perspective, you care about different things and you do different things. For example, this is one of those things that I told Soryu. You all know Soryu. Soryu Forall is our founder, guiding teacher. I told Soryu a while back that I come to a realization regarding worry, regarding anxiety, or rushing, which is that we often have the sense that to rush is to make things go faster, actually, really, at the end of the day. We can know that we actually shouldn't rush, that it isn't actually productive to rush, that if we rush, we're going to make mistakes, the task will take longer. But still, at least I always believed that really, if you rush, you can do something in 5 minutes rather than 10 minutes. You know, and sometimes you need to do that. Sometimes you should just do the thing rushed in 5 minutes rather than taking 10 minutes and doing it non-rushed. And that's actually better in a way. But I realized that actually that isn't quite true. Because you don't finish the task just at the time that you finish arranging the objective world in the way that you need to, hanging up the clothes or whatever it is. You finish the task by the time you have purified all of the results of all of the karma that you've produced through doing that task. So if you do it in 10 minutes without rushing, then it takes 10 minutes. If you do it in 5 minutes with rushing, it takes 5 minutes plus the length of time it takes you to purify all of the anxiety that you produced through rushing. Which, how long is that? Hours, days, weeks, months, years? So you're not actually deciding, am I going to do this in 5 minutes or 10 minutes? You're deciding, am I going to do this in 10 minutes or 3 days, 2 years, whatever it is. And he just said, so first he responded, he said, yes, very good, that's really, you really liked it, that was really impressive. And then he said, you know, it just underlines that really the only thing that matters is what the goal is. Because you had the goal, you had the is, you had the ought, that what really matters here is the purification of this mind. That it matters whether this mind experiences anxiety or not. Because of that, you conclude that you shouldn't rush. But if you take a different perspective, if you just say, well, the mind is just going to die anyway, and that's the end, there isn't any more life after death, and you can't take any of it with you, then it doesn't really matter. You don't really have to purify your mind. You can just, outrun the consequences of your actions until you die, and then you're done. Problem solved. So, what is the right way of seeing things? Is there a right way of seeing things? And if so, what is it? So the Buddha, of course, had an answer to this question. You all know that? No? Okay, yeah. Some of you have been training in Buddhism for a while, and this is old news, but not everyone, and certainly not everyone on the video. So the Buddha, made this big claim. This sort of centerpiece, the center of Buddhism is the Four Noble Truths, and there are problems. Problems have a cause, and usually it specifies the cause, but it's not so important. Because of that, there is such a thing as resolution, as the end of all problems, at the end of all suffering. And then the fourth is this eightfold path. It's noble eightfold path that leads to the resolution of suffering, to the solving of problems. And the beginning, the first spoke of the wheel, it's usually represented as a wheel. The first spoke of the wheel is called right view, and is the view, the story, the idea that is true, that is, according to the Buddha, accurate, true, and also beneficial. This is the way that you should see things that will be to your benefit and to the benefit of other people, and moreover, is actually true, is actually more true than other ways of seeing things. Of course, this is a huge claim, and it's a claim that I resisted for a long time in my training, and in some ways maybe I'm still resisting. Even just the idea that there could be a right view is something that I think we often recoil from. It's like, no, every view is equal. You just got done saying all this stuff about how just however you define things is arbitrary, and if you pick one goal or one idea about how things are, then you have one goal, and if you pick a different idea, you have a different goal. There isn't any way to know. We really resist the idea that there could be a way, that there could be one right way of seeing things. And moreover, we resist it because we don't, generally speaking, in this culture, see things in that way. We disagree with what the Buddha called right view. We don't believe it. Maybe I shouldn't say we don't believe it, but we don't want to look at it, and we recoil away from it. And so what is that view? What is right view? Well, the Pali Canon, the classical Buddhist scriptures, put it in a way that I think is actually really nice. So first of all, they're quite clear. This is just a view. So right view comes in two varieties. There's what's called mundane right view, which is the right view that is a view that you can describe and talk to people about. And then there is right view that is seeing things in accord with reality. If you actually do your own investigation, then you will come to actual, what's called sometimes transcendent right view. Right view that goes beyond views. Right view that is not merely a view. And the claim of Buddhism is that if you do that, if you see in accord with reality, then if you want to describe it in terms of views, you wind up saying more or less mundane right view. So what is mundane right view? I can't talk about transcendental right view, so I'm not going to. What is mundane right view? Mundane right view is just the view that there is what is given and offered and sacrificed. There's such a thing as giving a gift, that matters. To relinquish something, to give it up and then no longer have it, has significance, has importance, has matteringness. Further, that there is causality, there's consequence, there's a result of the actions that we take, the good actions and also the bad actions. If we act in ways that are skillful, beneficial, helpful to ourselves and others, then good consequences result. We're happy, other people are happy. And if we act in ways that are unskillful, damaging, harmful, then bad consequences result. People suffer, we suffer. And the way that Forel tends to put this is just that we will personally face all of the consequences of everything that we do in a way that doesn't stop at our own death. It doesn't end when we come to the end of this lifespan for us. That the consequences that we face as a result of what we have done will continue to follow us beyond the death of this physical body, the breaking up of this particular body and mind. Further, that there's such a thing as love. There's such a thing as the kind of love that a mother has for her children, or a father has for his children. Such a thing as real, unconditional, love, that exists, that's a real thing. It isn't merely chemicals in your brain, that there is such a thing as love. And furthermore, that there are those who have seen this for themselves, and having seen it, declare this. Well, that's right view. If you are willing to take the Buddha on faith and just believe that he knows what he's talking about, then you're done. Just take that on and walk the path. Lead your life. End of story. You can leave now. But in my experience, this isn't something that we're usually all that interested in taking on. And why not? So first of all, we can contrast it with the dominant modern view, the dominant modern religion, which again is, I would say, this sort of blend of a kind of materialism, the statement, the claim that the only things that exist are the things that we can measure, and therefore what we should do is improve measurements, make more money, buy more stuff, be more happy. On the one hand, this kind of materialism, this really materialistic annihilationism, because it goes further than that to make the claim that after you die, there's nothing else. You are your body and your brain, and therefore when they break up and decompose, there is nothing else. You are completely annihilated at that time. You have that on the one hand, and on the other hand, the view that human feelings, the way that humans feel about things, is the supreme authority in the universe. That the way that you measure whether something is good or bad or right or wrong is whether humans feel like it is. The way that you measure the worth of life is whether humans feel like that life is worth it. Yeah, we have entire species, for example, that we are dedicating enormous amounts of energy to annihilating because humans don't like those species. Mosquitoes, for example. A lot of people are working right now to come up with a way of causing mosquitoes to go extinct because we think that the value, the worth, the point of the life of those mosquitoes is their worth to humans, is their worth in terms of market value to human beings. And the mosquitoes are causing some problems for some humans, so probably better if they just go away. So, why do we believe that? Why do we hold that view? Why don't we hold any other view? Why don't we, in particular, hold right view? Why do we hold the view that the worth of this experience is its worth, is how I feel about it? Even we come to a place like this, we sit down and we start practicing, we meditate and we decide based on how we felt about the meditation session, whether it was good or bad. People come into the interview room. I'm teaching, people come in and they say, the practice isn't going very well right now. I'm feeling uncomfortable sensations in my body. Like, why do you think the practice isn't going well right now? You're feeling uncomfortable sensations in your body. That's great. That's exactly what you came for. That is your connection to all life, but we don't see it that way because we don't feel like that is good. It doesn't feel good, and so it seems like it isn't good. As far as I can tell, so this has been my own experience, and also what I've observed in other people I've interacted with, the reason that we don't believe right view, and the reason that we cling to this materialistic, humanistic perspective, by and large, is that if we were to let go of that perspective, we would have to face the consequences of having held that perspective. If we let go of the idea that there's only atoms and molecules and that nothing is conscious except as an epiphenomenon, we would have faced the fact that all of the trees that make up this room and this building were killed. probably not in a kind way, not in a way that was in connection with them, not in a way that valued them or loved them, except in as much as they could be this building. We have to face that we, right now, are exterminating, systematically, life on Earth. And we're participating in that. And when we realize that it isn't just atoms and molecules, and that it actually matters, that life matters on its own side, if we were to actually face that, then we would have to face the horror of the way that we are living our lives. And we're participating in this huge machine that is killing the entire planet, that threatens to actually destroy life as we know it. We're, again, currently in the process of doing that. Constructing various technologies that I won't get into right now because I'm in Vermont. But in any case, there's sort of there are changes in beliefs, there are updates to beliefs that we kind of aren't willing to make because we can't face living in that world. I actually think it's not that dissimilar from the way that gangs work. I'm not very familiar with this, I haven't studied this, everything I say could be completely off base, but just using this to paint a picture. So I'm not literally talking about gangs here, but you kind of understand. It's pretty common, as far as I can tell, in initiation into a gang of some sort, particularly in the third world, but also in the US, to make someone commit crimes, to kill some people. There's one person I know, or person who a person I know knows, in joining a gang in India, had to kill 6 people. That was their assignment in order to join that gang. Had to murder 6 people. And I think the reason for that is that once you've done that, the gang now is your source of safety and support. If you leave the gang, then you're going to be accountable for having killed those 6 people. But if you're in the gang, then you don't have to worry about it, and the gang will take care of you. It'll support you, it'll give you food. In just the same way, we have been made to act in ways that are harmful and menacing to life. Having been made to act in those ways, and having all of our friends having been made to act in those ways, we're now bought into the system. The system says, keep feeding me, keep growing exponentially, 2 or 3% a year, and I'll keep you safe. I'll keep you from experiencing the consequences of your actions. And so we keep on buying into the system. We keep on believing that somehow this is okay. And it can take a lot of courage to be willing to acknowledge that we actually did that. And also that it isn't actually going to be okay. The gang is telling us it's going to be okay, but it actually can't protect us. This materialistic, humanistic system can't actually protect us, because it can't protect us after we die. And it can't protect us after the planet dies. In my experience, well, 2 things. First of all, when I take on right view, when I'm able to see according to right view, the entire world is beautiful and magical. There's a kind of love, there's a kind of connection that exists between all of us in this room that is the same as the kind of connection that exists between us and that tree over there. there's a kind of friendship that those trees have with each other that is the same as a kind of friendship that we can have with each other and with those trees. And it's real. You can actually connect with trees. You can connect with animals. You can connect with the whole world. You can love the whole world and be loved by the whole world. This is extraordinary and magical, and also the source of enormous, maybe endless heartbreak and grief. Source of huge, unimaginable grief. So recently at Maple, we did a vision quest. We had someone come in who's worked with the Lakota tribe for a long time, and they led a vision quest ceremony for us. I didn't go up on the hill, but I supported, kind of worked my way into my favorite role, which is to just bring food to the questers, which feels really good to me and feels really good to them, and it feels really good to me that it feels really good to them. It's great. Good role. But so I didn't go up and quest, but I did participate in constructing the base camp. And this year I also helped build a sweat lodge. They made a sweat lodge as part of the ceremony. And in order to make this sweat lodge, I and a few other people went off into the woods to look for saplings, young trees that we could harvest in order to make the lodge. And we were, Darren, the person who led the quest, kind of helped us out and got us started and gave us instruction on how to do this. And said basically, you want to connect with the tree. So first of all, you're paying attention to the benefit of the forest overall. Is the forest benefited by this tree being offered? Is the tree, for example, too close to another tree? Is it not going to work out in the end anyway? We're paying attention to that, but beyond that, you should connect with the tree itself and ask the tree, does it want to be offered for this? Is the tree willing to give itself to construct this lodge? And some of them will just eagerly say, yes, definitely, please. And others will say, I've still got some karma to work out here. Maybe not. And so I did this. I went up to a bunch of trees and asked them about that, and some of them said yes and some of them said no. And then at some point I participated in selecting a tree that I actually now am pretty sure wasn't quite ready to go. I wasn't really in connection with the tree, and someone else was, and I asked them the wrong question. I asked them, what do you think? Do you think this tree should be offered? Instead of asking, what does the tree say? Should have asked what the tree said. If they were, I know them as a person, and if they had heard that question, they could have just asked the tree. They're not confused in the way that so many of us are, thinking, can you really talk to trees? I don't know. But they're not that confused. But I still not quite at the point where I can ask them, what do you think? And they will know that they should therefore drop concepts and self and connect with the tree and then have a thought. Weren't quite there. Okay, fine. So I say, what do you think? And they say, yeah, I think it's a good tree. I say, okay, great. And I walk away from the tree. And I'm just exploring, connecting with other saplings, just feeling it out. We're still looking for a few more trees. And then I connect with a particular sapling and feel just this huge sense of loss and sadness and heartbreak. It's like this tree was, I'm sorry to say this to you fundamentalist materialists in the room, but this tree I think was actually friends with the other tree. And I just had the sense of, oh no, and this heartbreak, this grief that then reverberated throughout the whole forest. And if you're having a hard time hearing this story right now, particularly you on the video camera, you in the future, you should consider the possibility that you're having a hard time hearing this potentially because you are in a building right now, maybe that you purchased, that is made of trees that no one asked. Consider whether it's just too much, just too overwhelming. Because it was too overwhelming for me. When I went back down from having constructed that lodge and I went back into the building, immediately on entering the building, it's like, oh my God. All the wood, all the metal, all the plastic. This huge building, so much wood. And that's just one building. And there's so many more. This system, this machine, this cult, this gang of materialistic humanism is at such an unimaginable scale that to let in that much heartbreak is just too much. It's just actually too much. You have to do it with one sapling at a time, almost. You have to let it in one piece at a time. You don't know how to take the whole thing on. And so we go numb, and then we forget. We go back in. But then we perhaps find ways of getting back out. We find ways of remembering. Find ways of remembering the significance of the story that we tell and the story that creates our life.